This year's Super Bowl wasn't just about the game or the celebrity cameos. The biggest stage in American advertising, it was invaded by a surprising new player, artificial intelligence. And these companies, they weren't just selling you a product, they were trying to sell you an idea.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This multi-million-dollar ad blitz. It had a much bigger job than just selling software. This was a massive public attempt to fix a really serious image problem for an entire industry. So the question is, did it actually work?
Okay, let's dive into the problem itself. Because to really get the strategies these companies used, you first have to understand the enormous mountain of public skepticism they were trying to climb. Now, just look at this chart. The imbalance is kind of wild. A recent Pew study found that a majority of Americans, 52%, are more concerned than excited about AI. Only 10% are more excited. Think about that. For every single person who's genuinely excited, there are more than 5 who are actively worried. That's a huge gap to close. And if you dig a little deeper, the trust numbers, they're even more stark. An Edelman study found that only 32% of Americans actually trust AI. That is a massive, massive trust deficit that a 30-second commercial has somehow overcome.
And this slide really nails it. We're not talking about some vague sci-fi, the robots are coming kind of unease. No, this is deep-seated economic anxiety. Gallup found that nearly 3/4 of people expect AI to cause a net loss of jobs, and over half think it's going to outright replace human work, not just help it. This is the battlefield these ads were fighting on.
So, how in the world did these companies try to tackle this problem? Well, the first strategy we saw was to just forget the tech specs, the jargon, all the lines of code, and instead go straight for the heart. The standout example of this emotional approach was, without a doubt, Google's ad for Gemini. It got all this praise for doing something very, very different. It didn't try to explain how AI works. It tried to show you why you should care. The ad was simple. It showed a mother and son exploring their new empty house, and they were using AI to imagine all the possibilities for their future there. It was sweet, it was relatable, and it was really smart. The pitch wasn't about the power of the algorithm. It was about AI being this quiet, helpful partner in the little moments that make up a life. Okay, now let's look at a completely different strategy. This one is way less about emotion and much more about empowerment. The message here is basically that AI is a powerful new tool, like a digital hammer and nails to help you build, create, and just work smarter. And we saw 2 very different takes on this. OpenAI, they went for this high-concept, almost philosophical ad, showing people creating art and technology with the tagline, "You can just build things." It was beautiful, but pretty abstract. On the other hand, you had Codebase 44, a coding tool. They were direct and funny, showing regular office workers building apps with a clever tagline, "It's app to you." But this empowerment message, it can be a minefield. The ad for GenSpark, for instance, showed AI doing all the office grunt work, like making slides and Excel sheets. Now, the idea was to show how it saves time, but for a lot of viewers, it landed right on that raw nerve of job replacement anxiety, sparking comments exactly like this one. All right, let's shift gears to a much riskier strategy, using humor. Instead of ignoring the public's deepest fears about AI, some brands decided to just lean in, joke about it, and try to diffuse the tension by being a little self-aware. First up was Anthropic, which tried to land a punch on a competitor. Their ads showed people asking an AI for help only to get a sales pitch. The whole joke was a direct shot at OpenAI, which had just announced that ads were coming to ChatGPT. It was a classic insider joke, but that's where the problems began. And that was the fatal flaw. The entire premise of the joke required you to know about a specific announcement from a rival tech company. For the average Super Bowl viewer who just wanted to see some horses and drink a beer, the context was just completely missing. Yeah, the verdict was brutal. According to Adweek, the ad's likability score placed it in the bottom 3% of all Super Bowl ads from the last 5 years. The most common reaction from viewers wasn't laughter, it was pure confusion. Now contrast that with Amazon. They took the same idea, addressing fear with humor, but they did it brilliantly. They had Chris Hemsworth basically act out every paranoid thought people have about smart speakers. Instead of an inside joke, it was a universal one. They acknowledged the fear and they made it funny, which is a much, much smarter play. So after all that money was spent, what's the final verdict? And what did these ads tell us about the state of AI right now? Well, A few ads signaled that we might be at the absolute peak of an AI bubble.
Case in point, Spedga, a beverage company. They proudly unveiled what they called the first fully AI-generated Super Bowl ad. The result? A bizarre, almost creepy ad with these dancing robots that was just universally disliked. It was a perfect example of the fact that simply using AI to make something doesn't automatically make it good.
But nothing, and I mean nothing, screamed bubble louder than the story of AI.com. This quote right here perfectly captures the feeling so many people had watching this whole thing unfold in real time. It was a perfect storm of hype, money, and pure chaos.
The timeline for this is just wild. Okay, so first, an open source AI framework goes viral. Just 2 weeks later, a founder buys the AI.com domain for reported $70 million. They build a product around the tool and rush a Super Bowl ad to air. And the result? The website immediately crashed from all the traffic. It was just a spectacular high-speed flameout. You can't make this stuff up.
So when we look at the final report card here, a really clear pattern emerges. The ads that succeeded, like Google's emotional pitch and Amazon's self-aware humor, they connected on a fundamentally human level. The ones that failed, like Anthropic's inside joke or the pure hype plays from AI.com, they completely missed the mark with the average person. Which brings us right back to our original question. After all the $7 million slots and all the celebrity endorsements, did this whole ad blitz actually move the needle on public perception? Or is the anxiety around AI just too deep and too real to be solved by a 30-second commercial during a football game? That's the question we're left with.